Verve, online devotional videos.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate the time, and hopefully you will too. One of the most famous people in the scripture, in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, it's got to be King David. Everybody knows the story of King David and Goliath in all realms of society. Well, there's another story of David that is maybe as equally as large, but most people are uncomfortable with it. And that's the story of David's sin, his failure, his affair, some people call it an affair, with Bathsheba, but it was probably a rape and it ended up in murder. And it's a story of darkness and vile and horrible, tragic failure of a man. And what's amazing is that the Bible carries both stories, because when God looks at us, he sees everything. And not only does he see everything, he loved David when he was the victor, and he loved David when he was the victimizer. He loved him equally. But there is a part of that infamous story of David and Bathsheba, there's a key principle that's missed by many people. The narrative begins in 2 Samuel chapter 11 with this statement: "It was time for the kings to go out to war, but David, the king, stayed home in the palace." So he was supposed to be in the battlefield with his soldiers leading his army, but instead he stayed home in the palace and was enjoying the privileges of the palace. And in that simple statement, there's a huge principle for you and I. When we get caught up in our privileges of Christ rather than in our responsibilities of Christ and for Christ, that's where failure comes in. And today in our world that we live in, everybody talks about the privileges that we have, but few want to talk about the responsibilities. And David, he was all caught up in his privileges, stay home in the palace, but he shirked his responsibilities, and his fall was great. And I want to tell you this, that fall is there for you and I when we are all about our privileges and not about our responsibilities. Paul says very boldly in Galatians chapter 6, "Bear one another's burdens and thus fulfill the law of Christ." This is one of our major mandates, is to be responsible as Christ's followers and disciples, responsible for each other. So let me say this to you today. Where are you at in your responsibilities, and are you just counting the privileges that you do or think you should have? Where are you at in that whole concept of it's time for war, and I need to get out there and fight?
Verve, devotional videos to your inbox.